Now we turn to the other check provided under the Constitution, the American people's rights, where free speech, protests, and democracy are holding up better, including with the work by citizens as opposed to many elites, with one exception. CEOs have an outsized role in economics, media, and democracy. They can use their power to hold the line. We see that in wartime patriotism or peacetime government collaboration, and sometimes in backing civil rights and democracy. Some CEOs responded to the original January 6th attack by denouncing it and vowing not to donate to politicians involved. Once Trump came back, though, many reversed themselves, donating to him. This includes some of America's largest company CEOs, and the backtracking contrast is striking.
Mark Zuckerberg just writing in a statement that the shocking events of the last 24 hours clearly demonstrate that President Donald Trump intends to use his remaining time in office to undermine the peaceful and lawful transition of power.
Goldman Sachs CEO David Solomon said, "For years, our democracy has built a reservoir of goodwill around the world that brings important benefits for our citizens. Today's attack on the U.S. Capitol does further damage."
Indeed, those big companies, 12 of their CEOs were once standing up to this. We showed you some of that sound. Now they're actively undercutting the red line they claim for democracy. Other CEOs have buckled under government pressure to suspend Jimmy Kimmel or pay Trump for baseless cases that attack speech. This includes CEOs who, as part of their portfolio, also oversee news companies. And then there are the lawyers. Trump plotted against the Sixth Amendment right to counsel by retaliating against firms representing his critics. Now, law firms fight in court for a living, yet early on, many buckled under that plot. About 38% of the targeted firms have been fighting back over time in court, a mixed picture at best. Now, Trump also tried abusing government funding to attack campus freedom. And while many people criticize the universities which buckled, and that got a lot of attention, when you look over the year, our reporting finds most targeted universities, about 60%, just there, about 57%, are fighting back. Now, some of the parent companies' CEOs buckled, I mentioned that. But when you look at the actual editors of newspapers, say the Times, Wall Street Journal, and most working journalists, they're not buckling, even as Trump sues and tries to bar access, and recently even oversaw the unusual federal search of a reporter's home. Journalists are still reporting and speaking and critiquing the government as the Constitution envisioned. In fact, if you just think about it, a lot of what we know about Trump attacking the Bill of Rights comes from the exercise of that very first right, the First Amendment right to report and speak. It bars the government, of course, from any attempt to censor, ban, or punish free speech, free press, or the right of the people to peacefully assemble, which brings us to protest. Americans have been exercising that right to great effect, breaking records for protests in this past year against Trump's autocratic bid for king-like powers, really sparking a movement that is now, according to polling, 13% larger than MAGA.
Protest now or bow down later.
Those are your options?
Yes.
Everything this regime has been up to is anti-American.
More than 100 community members rally around a Vermont man at risk of deportation.
Like I say, this is where I belong. This is home to me.
Congress makes the laws, not the president.
I believe in the Constitution, the rule of law, and I believe in people treating other people with humanity.
I didn't think that our government would be inhumane like that.
It is regular Americans who have been fighting against Trump all over the country. Yes, in Washington, but honestly, all over the country. And that's what's made the difference.
These protests all over the country are one of the most effective green ratings when you measure the guardrails of this past year. Comparison, the conservative Tea Party got a lot of attention and drew about 700,000 attendees concerned about Obama's leadership across 2009. The past year's Trump protests have drawn about 13 million people. A massive show of public resistance and unity. And that can shape public opinion and impact politicians alike. Now, I told you DOJ employees falling down on their constitutional oath. We reported that. The U.S. guardrails also require regular citizens at the beginning and the end of every major prosecution. The grand juries that charge, and of course, the jury of 12 that convicts. And so the DOJ's extreme cases are sometimes dead on arrival because citizens on grand juries keep rejecting cases against protesters, against some Trump rivals. They've stopped now, if you're counting, 10 attempted cases that we know about from Bondi's DOJ, including the bungled case against New York Attorney General James. Then there are elections. Trump now muses about an illegal third term or plotting against the midterms. Those are threats to do crime. They got to be taken seriously, especially after his convicted 2020 insurrection. But the fact is, this year, elections were still successfully held around the nation. That is another green rating. Democracy's core guardrail, the people decide, is holding under strain. So, altogether, it is a rough year for the rule of law. We're seeing red on the government side. Trump, the source of the attacks on the rule of law, his appointees, Congress, all failing the Constitution. That's as courts and states try to hold the line. But the evidence shows the public is leading in this breach, and you can measure it. Regular workers showing courage their bosses lack. Journalists reporting amid these attacks. Citizens defending a Constitution that the DOJ is clearly trashing. From the jury box to the ballot box, and those record-breaking protests month after month, even against very real threats of government retribution or violence as soldiers roam the streets. And this is actually what the founders envisioned. Strong checks and rights, because they expected conniving tyrants can come into power. The rights protected because we will need them, not because everything's just going to be easy or okay. Things are not okay. The rule of law is losing key rounds. The founders planned for that. Madison was fixated on how to systematically thwart future tyrants who might come into office. Or as the late Bashar Jackson said, a.k.a. Pop Smoke, drop a slip and get a light pack. I don't care if you're losing. Still fight back. The people are fighting back. And that's partly because we still have that power because the guardrails are protecting it most of the time. And the American system makes it a stronger power than any temporary politician who's supposed to serve the public.